Welcome back, everybody, to the Weekly Source. Very excited to have you today and super excited for our guest, Siona Henderson, Head of People Enablement at Streetsense. Siona, welcome to the Weekly Source.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for the warm welcome, Neil.
Of course. And so we've had you speak at Eclipse. We've had you speak on virtual visits before, but folks who don't know you or had you on some of our content, mind just giving us a bit of an intro and background on yourself?
I would love to. So first, I just want to say I'm a fun HR person, woohoo, so shout out to all the fun folks out there. I've had about 17 years of people experience, everything from talent acquisition to organizational development, to even doing some executive coaching and working with leaders. So Neil, I want to change it up a little bit and throw in a little HR joke here for you. Are you ready?
I am ready, and I think everybody watching is ready as well.
Okay, terrific. So have you seen the movie It?
I have.
Okay, so what do you think the favorite part of a company would be for Pennywise from the movie It?
Oh.
Neil.
Going into storm drain and balloons and what?
Of course, the favorite part of a company is human resources, but ching. There you go, to kick us off with an HR joke.
So very, very well done.
You're welcome. Halloween themed, Neil. You're welcome.
I like it. Oh, man. All right, well, let's take us back into things. I think my first question was going to be, how are things? And we're going to have some fun with that. But I think take that into just your role, summing up how crazy of a year it's been, the myriad hats you wear, whether it's managing the benefits plan, how your company's being impacted. I guess let's start with the pandemic and your specific benefits that you're either seeing change, or is there a rise in new benefits, whether it's mental health benefits? I mean, what is your team coming to you with questions, and where is it, I guess, affecting products specifically, or how you guys are offering benefits specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll just want to start off by saying that it has indeed been a crazy year. I like to call the kind of year pandemic extreme VUCA environment. And for those of you who aren't familiar with VUCA, that's volatility, that's uncertainty, complexity, and then also ambiguity. And so for us, on the benefits front, the biggest way that this has impacted us is really through mental health benefits. We're really finding that both our current employees and those who have been impacted through either separation or furlough have a need to manage their stress, to manage the anxiety. And so I'll first speak to some of the strategies that we've been employing as it relates to mental health benefits. And the first is amplification of our EAP resource, so our employee assistance program. The second is really mental health webinar programming. So that can be everything from having an expert come in and talk about stress management. What are some tactical tips that you can do to overcome stress and anxiety right now? Things like breathing techniques, meditation. We ran a pilot coaching program to really focus on the whole being. And so some of the coaching was just about like, how do you navigate life and balance all of that with work? So we did 6 group sessions and then follow on individual coaching sessions. For our impacted staff, be it through furlough or also separation, we also contracted with an outside organization to basically have licensed therapists do check-in calls just to see how they're doing. And then the last thing I'll say is also fostering this culture of being open and like really candid about talking about mental health. So that starts with our leaders being able to acknowledge, like, it's tough for me. It's hard for me from a mental health perspective. Here are some of the strategies that I'm employing to get through this time. So those would be the primary areas that we've been leaning into. And then as it relates to benefits changes, I'm doing some planning for our benefits open enrollment. I'm actually looking at some of the telehealth carriers from an EAP perspective and from just a therapist. I think there's Amwell, there's Talk Therapy, there's all types of vendors that offer great services. And then the only other item, and I've mentioned this before on a prior call with PlanSource, and that is employee care cards. right? So we know that there may be people who work for your company today that maybe they're not impacted, but they have a spouse that's impacted, and they may still need some emergency assistance. And so you can basically contract with a company to have qualified expenses covered.
Incredible. I mean, you think about how quickly from the outside, it looked like you have been able to respond and put plans into motion to work with a team, not without late nights, early mornings, all the things. But can you talk, you're putting a ton of great initiatives into place, whether it is the webinars, the practices. I mean, your HR counterparts that may be trying to, one, get HR a seat at the table. I feel like that's something we've also talked about at Eclipse, but then two, either pitch these programs, show proof of concept of these programs, and what has worked with you to get these plans into place other than knowing it's something I want to try or it's something that can work?
So for me, it's been I'd say it starts with data. We know leaders value good data. So both from a qualitative perspective, getting the feedback from employees. I think the second piece is there's lots of information and data out there. I don't want to misquote the source, but I think it's Qualtrics that said like 44% of employees are struggling with mental health issues since they've been working remotely from home. So I think getting multiple data sources, you can even use your employee pulse surveys to gather that information and data and really shape questions around well-being. How are people doing? So I think connecting the investment in someone's well-being to also how it also connects and benefits the business and pushes us forward is another potential case to sell the benefit and to sell the resource.
Makes sense. Makes total sense. And you touched on organizational effectiveness, definitely something we wanted to cover. I mean, I think there's a pre-2020 organizational effectiveness, and then how is that done in a virtual age? So how are you managing all of that, and where's your focus today?
So I just will say that it's been completely disrupted, right? So the strategies that you come with to go, great, how do we operate efficiently, have completely been flipped upside down. So luckily for our business, really earlier on in the pandemic, we saw decline in certain industries that we play in. And so what we really did from an organizational effectiveness perspective, instead of me sort of going through the 6 points, it's really, in short, operating effectively. And why I think this is significant for HR leaders to lean into is we are here to enable people and enable the business. And so HR professionals should really be asking their leaders, great, what needs to change now that the world has changed? What needs to change from our strategy perspective? What needs to change from an operating model perspective? So I think it's first designing that new operating model, partnering with the leader on an organizational structure that now works for this new model. And then it's aligning key processes, tasks, initiatives to hit the goal. So I do think this is a unique opportunity for HR to lean in and really have a seat at helping to enable business strategy by asking leaders the right questions as they're continuing to adapt the business model to this new climate.
I think before we wrap up, I usually like to have a call to action to the audience, and you touched on it there. So can you, I guess, sum it all up and kind of what's your call to action to your HR colleagues, or whether you want to speak to employees going through enrollment? I mean, really, it's your floor, but would love to hear it.
So my simple call to action is one of two things. First, that is really look to elevate your employee benefits and open enrollment. I would say focus on the mental health benefits and also survey your people, ask them what they want. And then my second tip as it relates to organizational effectiveness really is to ask your leaders about how the business is going, and what you can do as HR professionals to help enable the business, to help them thrive in this climate and beyond. That gives us indications of where we might need to show up and help support our businesses and, most importantly, our people.
And then the bonus one is always bring a good joke, right?
Absolutely. You've got to have a corny joke, right? We don't want to be the Tobys of the HR realm, folks out there. So don't be a Toby. Like, you got to be like the boss HR lady. There you go. There's my final tip. Thank you, Neil. Absolutely.
I got you. Siona, I really appreciate the time. Really enjoyed catching up. I know the folks watching at home are going to enjoy this as well. So thank you all for tuning in. And Siona, thank you again for stopping by to the Weekly Source.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Neil.
You bet. Bye all.